What's going on, y'all? Welcome to Triple Z. I'm your host, Isaiah Henry. The Golden State Valkyrie versus Minnesota Lynx kicks off the 2025 WNBA playoffs. Minnesota protects home court with a blowout win in Game 1, 101-72. The bench unit for the Lynx was amazing in Game 1, 42 bench points. Natisha Heidman, 18 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Fantastic at keeping her dribble alive, which opened up the lane for her to get downhill. One of her plays from last night, she goes between the leg, behind the back. That has Veronica Berton off balance, and now Natisha Heidman is dribbling with her strong, dominant hand and finishes over the top of the center for the Golden State Valkyrie. She had second effort plays. She missed a shot at the rim, and then she gets her own offensive rebound and puts the shot back in. If the defense gave her a clean look from three, she shot it with confidence, making 2 threes in Game 1. Heidman's energy was contagious. It was fueling the Minnesota crowd, and it was fueling her teammates. Jessica Shepard, 12 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, being a problem down low, cleaning up the glass, grabbing offensive rebounds, taking advantage of her opportunities to be efficient around the basket. Dejanay Carrington missed 4 games with a shoulder injury. Once she got subbed in, she received a standing ovation from the Lynx fan base. Played 11 minutes, knocked down 2 threes during the Lynx 9-0 run with a minute left in the third quarter. The bench unit was amazing, just stepping up their game to help the Lynx win Game 1. Golden State had some difficulty creating offense off their pick and roll game. If you watch the Golden State Valkyries, they run a ton of pick and roll, especially between Veronica Berton and Temi Fagbenle. When you get those two in their action, it creates so much havoc for defenses where the offense is spread out, 5 out offense or 4 out, 1 in. And with Temi Fagbenle getting into foul trouble, it kind of took away a layer of their offense. Minnesota showed multiple coverages when defending the pick and roll. If Collier was in the action, she would completely switch out onto Veronica Berton. And that's an advantage for the Minnesota Lynx because with Napheesa Collier, she's a DPOY candidate, great defensive player in the WNBA, but she can keep up laterally with Veronica Berton, and then she towers over her, meaning she can take away Veronica's vision to see over the defense. You also saw Collier play a little bit of drop coverage as well. When Elena Smith was put in the action, she would mostly play drop coverage, and she's so great at keeping the ball in front of her, but then also being mindful of the low man getting beneath her on the roll. Running Golden State off the three-point line and forcing them to make plays on the fly against the Lynx defensive rotations took away a layer of the Valkyrie's offense. The Golden State Valkyrie have been one of the best three-point shooting teams in the WNBA when you talk about frequency, efficiency, volume, attempts, all of it, right? You take it all into perspective. During the regular season, they made 9 to 10 three-pointers a game on 40 attempts, and in the first quarter, they were shooting lights out from 3. They made 5 three-pointers in the first quarter, and it really took the Minnesota Lynx taking that first timeout of the game to change up how they're going to defend the three-point line against the Golden State Valkyries. Because for Golden State, they made 5 three-pointers in the first quarter, but then for the rest of the game, they only made 9. So there was definitely a defensive adjustment from the Minnesota Lynx to run them off the three-point line and force the Golden State Valkyrie to make plays against Minnesota Lynx, who are amazing at their defensive rotation, their closeout, and just covering up for one another defensively. Valkyries also had trouble taking care of the basketball. They had 16 turnovers against the Minnesota Lynx, which is like, that's the number one thing when you're playing against a great defensive team in the Minnesota Lynx. You never want to turn over the ball. Easier said than done, but 16 turnovers, that's pretty unacceptable for the Golden State Valkyries because the Minnesota Lynx are just going to feed off of that. That led to 16 points for the Minnesota Lynx for points off of turnovers. Elena Smith picks up a steal on Veronica Berton. She's running the fast break. Veronica grabs her. It's an and one finish for Elena Smith. Courtney Williams, on the defensive end, gets a steal on the wing. She's pushing the ball up the court, and she gets an and one at the rim. Courtney Williams, overall, she had a great game, but defensively, oh my gosh, she was amazing. Had 4 steals and 1 block. The block that she had was, I did not expect that coming. She recovered to the right side short corner, and I forgot who the Golden State Valkyrie player was attempting the shot. But Courtney Williams jumped up and met that offensive player at her apex and blocked that shot out of bounds. That was probably one of the best plays, one of the best defensive plays of the night for the Minnesota Lynx. One thing that needs to be addressed for the Golden State Valkyries is the workload for Veronica Berton, with Kayla Thornton missing time with her ACL injury and being, an all-star player. She's very much needed in this series. Tiffany Hayes being ruled out for game one. Temi Fagbele getting into foul trouble. Veronica has a lot more on her plate to facilitate, to hit her open three-point shots, to create off the dribble, to be just this impactful player for her entire team, be in that system that holds everything together. And she played the entire first half, 20 minutes, and you just saw throughout the game her workload just getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier, which took the Golden State Valkyries out of their game, right? Golden State is a team that loves to move the ball around. They're, a high energy team that likes to, play on both ends. They're feisty. They can fight. They never lack energy, it almost seems like. But in game one, with Veronica taking on all these different responsibilities and having to, basically put on the backpack, with facilitating, playmaking, reading the defenses and all this type of stuff, it just became a little bit too much for her, in my opinion. And I think the workload needs to be dispersed a little bit more for the Golden State Valkyrie. So that needs to be addressed for game two. Other great performances. We know Natisha Heidman is going to do her thing. She scored, 20 points, I want to say. Natisha Heidman. Yeah, 20 points, 6 rebounds, mid-range assassin, finishing through contact. Kayla McBride, she's going to be coming off those pin downs, those floppy actions, right? And she's just an amazing shooter, one of the quickest triggers in the WNBA. The conditioning, the balance, the footwork, the, coordination at, coming off a screen and then aligning yourself with the rim to, just have vision on the rim. She's such a great shooter. She played great last night. Finished with 17 points, 3 rebounds, went 3 of 5 from the three-point line. Let's move on to the second game that I was able to watch. The New York Liberty defeats the Phoenix Mercury in overtime, 76-69. Both teams were evenly matched during regulation, and I don't mean that in the sense of it was a chess match. I mean, neither team looked like the best versions of themselves. It was a very uncharacteristic game from the New York Liberty and the Phoenix Mercury. When you look at the second half of this game, not looking at overtime, when you look at the second half, the New York Liberty, 9 field goals made, 12 turnovers. The Phoenix Mercury went 6 of 29 from the field, 2 of 11 from 3. It was one of those kind of games with turnovers, inefficiencies, players in foul trouble, missed opportunities. Even with all that, it was still evenly matched. Like, neither team during regulation was able to get the one-up on each other. And overtime, it really came down to, obviously, what team can execute better overall as a team. And with the New York Liberty, they're champions. They're the reigning champs. They have so many accomplished players on their team, like their head coach, Sabrina Ionescu, Jacko Jones, Natasha Cloud, Stewie. They have so many accomplished players who have been at the highest level, in playoff moments, and has won at the highest level and has a ton of experience. So they know what they need to do in order to win game one on the road, which is always a difficult thing to do when you're on the road. The Liberty was able to execute better as a team with their off-ball movement, limiting the Mercury offensive possessions, and staying in control during overtime. Anytime an opportunity presented itself during overtime for the New York Liberty, they knew when to capitalize. So when Mercury decided to go underneath the screen on Natasha Cloud, and that seems to be like the game plan for the Phoenix Mercury, going under those screens, she took advantage of that and knocked down her three-point shot efficiently. Like, the first made shot for both teams in overtime was Copper going under a screen, I believe, and Natasha Cloud hitting that three from the wing. Or, Stewie is in the left corner and Sabrina is aligned with Stewie. Stewie goes backdoor or a baseline cut on Alyssa Thomas, and she gets the and one finish, but then she ends up hurting her knee. She seemed to be doing pretty good after that. But it's opportunities like that, Stewie realizing, all right, Sabrina has the attention of the defense. Alyssa Thomas is ball watching. Let me go backdoor, or let me go on this baseline cut and get the and one finish. Play Sabrina's ball handling, and Jacquel Jones sets a screen for her. Phoebish realized that the defense has all their eyes on the ball and Sabrina Ionescu, who's a threat to do anything on the basketball court, to pass, to shoot, to, move off the ball. But Sabrina receives the screen from Jacquel Jones, and Phoebish is in the left corner, and she does a baseline cut, and, she gets 2 points for the New York Liberty, and that extends the lead 72-65. And what really obviously puts the game away for the New York Liberty, for them to, end up winning this game. Obviously, the game plan is to go underneath screens on Natasha Cloud. Copper's defending Natasha Cloud. Sabrina Ionescu sets like a ghost screen. Copper goes underneath, and then Jacquel Jones sets another screen, and Copper goes over the screen. And now Dewana Bonner's forced to help on Natasha Cloud driving to her right hand. Dewana Bonner and Alyssa Thomas collapse on Natasha Cloud right-hand drive. And then Natasha Cloud, just having the court vision and then trusting her teammates, she kicks it to Phoebish on the wing for a three. Phoebish knocks the shot down, and that pretty much extends the lead for the New York Liberty and puts the game away entirely. What I will say about the Phoenix Mercury, they're known as this team with their offense. There's movement. They're sharing the ball. The ball never sticks. That's the idea you get from watching the Phoenix Mercury. But in overtime, the ball was sticking a lot, and it wasn't getting moved around a lot. And I'm not sure of her name, Monique Makani. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. She's a rookie, a 24-year-old rookie. You would have thought she was the best player on the team, the way how she was taking some of these shots. I mean, there was one play, she's bringing up the ball, pick and roll between Makani and Alyssa Thomas. Makani draws 2 on the ball, and if you look at it, Alyssa Thomas has an open lane if Makani just does that simple, pocket pass. But Makani takes the mid-range shot, and the ball doesn't even move around. Makani's the only one with the ball in her hand. She takes a mid-range shot. It hits off the front rim, and then Alyssa Thomas tries to get it, but then it goes out of bounds. And then another play, Makani is bringing up the ball. Nobody else touches the rock, and she tries to take Jacquel Jones, one-on-one, and tries to attack Jacquel Jones at the rim. Jacquel Jones is an amazing defensive player, amazing anchor of the Liberty's defense. She contested the shot. I believe she blocks it, but then Makani gets bailed out with Alyssa Thomas being there for the offensive rebound and gets 2 points. There was those kind of possessions where the Mercury wasn't moving the ball around. They weren't sharing. There wasn't a lot of ball movement. They were, it felt like they were trying to get all the points back in one shot. That's what it felt like. They felt the pressure of with time winding down, we're not executing offensively. All right, we just got to put something up. And that didn't work for the Phoenix Mercury. A few details that needs to be, on everybody's agenda going into game 2. What's the status of, Stewie? Because, the way how she fell down, she was holding on to that knee. She was in a lot of pain. She had to wrap her knee. She had to wrap her knee up when the Liberty called for a timeout, and she didn't even play the last 2 minutes of game 1, right? She didn't play the last 2 minutes. So what does her status look like heading into game 2? And then for the Phoenix Mercury, can they get back to their identity of moving the ball around and, just sharing, honestly, the ball movement, sharing, turning a good shot into a great shot? Can they get back to that kind of level of basketball? And can Satou Sabally have a better game than she did in game 1? She missed 10 shots in a row. That's not going to cut it for an all-star player. Can Copper stay out of foul trouble? She had some, very questionable fouls where it's like, you're better than that. Why are we reaching on that? Why are we gambling on that possession? So I think those are the 2 things for both teams heading into game 2. Thank you for listening to Triple Z. Appreciate you all for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know down in the comment section if you like these recaps and want me to do other games and give my analysis on. I'll see you guys next time.